Why do folks with an Indian accent sometimes pronounce T's or D's like t or duh? Here's a quick explanation. Try saying the English sounds th, t, and ch. You'll notice that your tongue starts all the way up on your teeth and moves farther and farther back in your mouth as you go from th to ch. These different places you put your tongue are called places of articulation, and they can kind of change the acoustics of the sound of your tongue touching the top of your mouth. A lot of languages from India take this one step further and have a sound even behind ch that goes all the way back to t. Since English lacks this sound and a lot of Indian languages lack the th sound, there's not really a one-to-one correspondence between all these t sounds. This means that, for example, the Hindi front T sound sometimes is used to pronounce the th sound, and then they need something to do with the English T sound, so then they'll have to use their t. In general, trying to map the sound system of one language onto another leads to a distinct accent. Why do folks with the Chinese accent often say words like talk as talk and key as key? Listen to the way you say the k sound in ski versus key. You'll notice when the S isn't there, you add a lot more of an H sound after the K. This H is called aspiration, and in English it often helps to distinguish words, but it's not required. For instance, I could still say ki, and you know I'm talking about a key. However, in Chinese, the difference between ki and key could be a different word. When aspiration changes words like this, we call it phonemic aspiration. Since aspiration is phonemic in a lot of Chinese languages, they have to emphasize that aspiration a lot more to help distinguish words. This is why it might sound like they're overdoing it a little bit when speaking English. People will sometimes offensively describe Chinese as sounding like ching chong, but what's the linguistic explanation for this? In English, we have the sounds ch, j, sh, and zh, and they're all pronounced on this hard palate behind your teeth, if you can feel that. Other than these, we don't really have any other obstruent consonants that kind of block the air around there. Chinese, however, has a lot of obstruent consonants right around this area. They have ch, j, sh, zh, ch, g, sh, zh. That's a lot more than English, so you can probably already start seeing why the confusion arises, but there's actually even more confusion than that. In English, we say ch and j differently because ch doesn't use your vocal cords, but j does use your vocal cords. In Chinese, though, the difference between ch and j is actually more about aspiration than voicing. Aspiration is kind of like how long you wait until you start using your vocal cords for the vowel sound. Basically, what this leads to is a lot of sounds in Chinese just sounding like ch to an untrained ear. This, combined with the fact that a lot of Chinese syllables end with the ng sound, kind of explains why the ching chong stereotype started. Why does the Italian accent always add a vowel at the end of a word? Basically, the original Italian, Latin, used to have a lot of grammatical endings on the end of words, but eventually the language changed to not really need these anymore. This led to a lot of words that end in vowels, and eventually this caught on. Vowels began getting added to words that didn't even have a vowel there in the first place. Eventually, this became part of the language's syllable structure, and it got hard for native speakers to not add a vowel at the end of a word. A similar thing happens with the Japanese accent. Did Americans used to speak with a British accent, or is it the other way around? Let's focus on the R sound, like in the word arm. Before the founding of the United States, basically everybody in Britain and in America would pronounce that word arm and not However, around the time of American independence, it became very popular to start dropping those R's in British cities. Around this time, a lot of British immigrants would come to the northeastern United States. This is why in Boston, you can still hear people pronouncing the word arm as am. Eventually, R dropping got really common in Britain, especially in the standard received pronunciation. However, British English is conservative in ways that American English isn't. For example, in the United States, we'd pronounce both of these words as ladder, but in Britain, they would pronounce one as lada and the other as lata or something like that. And so they preserve this distinction that is lost in the United States. So both accents are conservative and innovative in different ways. Some people are bilingual, but can you be fluent in different accents or dialects too? Yeah. In fact, this is pretty common in the United States, with a lot of people having one dialect that they speak at home with friends and family, and another dialect that they speak in formal settings. That's usually standard American English. A good example of this can be seen in the movie BlacKkKlansman.
Some of us can speak King's English, others speak Jive. Ron Stallworth here happens to be fluent in both.
In the scene, the character Ron Stallworth talks about how he can speak both African-American vernacular English, which he refers to as Jive, and the King's English, or Standard American English. AAVE is a sociolect spoken by a lot of African-Americans in the United States, but sometimes speakers of AAVE will code switch to Standard American English for different scenarios. There's a lot of parallels between this and how a lot of bilingual Hispanic people will speak Spanish at home and with friends, and English in more formal settings like school or work. This isn't necessarily saying that Standard American English is better than these other varieties, it just happens to be the convention in these settings.